Hi, everyone. Welcome to Talk Tech with Data Dave. I'm Alexis, your host of Talk Tech with Data Dave, and I'm here with my dear friend, Data Dave. We're here to talk to you about all things technology, all things data, all things cloud, all things D3 Clarity.
Good morning, Alexis. Good morning, everybody. This is Data Dave Wilkinson, the CTO of D3 Clarity, and welcome to Talk Tech with Data Dave.
Talk Tech with Data Dave is brought to you by D3 Clarity, offering clarity for improved decision making. D3 Clarity delivers profitability multipliers through better data and digital infrastructure. For more information, contact D3 Clarity at d3clarity.com. Dave, my question today is a little bit philosophical, if you will. Where is data headed in the next 3 or 4 years? What sort of implications is data going to have on my life in the next few years?
I think, well, that's an excellent question, Alexis, as I usually say, but it is an excellent question. I think we should all be thinking about that. Data's come a long way in the last 2 or 3 years. We actually pay more attention to the data than we ever have paid before. We went through a wave a couple of years ago on the whole privacy thing and everybody paying attention to their particular personal data and to the nature of privacy and how do you protect your identity and that sort of thing. So that was a wave a little while ago where everybody was sort of, should I be releasing my personal data, etc., and how do we do that, right? So if we look back just a little bit and look through that wave, we're collecting more and more data, and everybody's collecting more and more data. What's good is everybody's getting more and more cognizant of the data that they're publishing, that they're putting out. So
Oh, yeah.
if we play a slightly different historical game for a minute and look at the social media wave, the rise of Facebook, the rise of other social media,
Hmm.
Instagram, whatever you want to say, people are actually being way more responsible than they ever were. Society has almost learnt to live in a world of social media now, where 10 years ago, they didn't. When my daughter was a teenager, it was all over the place. They were putting everything out, and now she's mid-20s, right? The world has changed. We've moved on. We've become more, society has become more responsible to that kind of data. So as we look forward, we start to say, where is data going? How do we move forward with data? Every organization is collecting more and more data. We're now, if we go back to our previous episodes where we say data is simply the evidence of action, we're now
Right.
collecting that data, we're observing actions, we're collecting the data that describes those actions almost everywhere. We talked about cloud a little while ago as well. And with the cloud coming in, the relatively easy availability of massive amounts of compute power to now crunch that data and make decisions based upon it is also a wave for the future, right? So you start to bring this, can I process the data? Am I capable of processing the data? Well, the answer is now yes. Even as a relatively small company, you can buy the compute power, right, and the
Hmm.
technology to actually operate on large amounts of data and make meaningful decisions and outcomes, right? We're collecting more and more data as time goes by, both as individuals and as sort of members of society, members of commerce. So I've got more photographs on my phone than I ever had as I was growing up, right?
Yeah.
My kids, my world, my life is way more photographed than it ever was before. Um, my immediate go-to, I needed to know my license plate number the other day. My immediate thing was I wanted to take a photograph of the car. I wouldn't have done that
Yeah.
10 years ago. I'd have gone and written it down with a notepad and pen, right?
Oh, Dave, I'm with you. I have a picture of my license plate in my phone
Right.
for that very reason.
For that very
That way
reason.
I don't have to keep going to look for it.
Exactly. Um, I was doing some work on actually a home generator, not a whole home generator, but a small generator that I had the other day. What did I do? I went and took a photograph of the serial number, right? We take photographs of everything. We're putting out more and more data. We're collecting more and more data. We've got the compute power to read those photographs. All these photographs are in the cloud. We've got the compute power to read them We've got a compute power to collect evidence of almost every action that we take. And it's something we've got to get used to. We want the benefit from it, but we've also got to take responsibility for it as we do it, right? We want people to know that I'm close to this restaurant or that restaurant, and I usually eat cheeseburgers, not chicken sandwiches or whatever. So recommend a restaurant. But with that, there comes a level of responsibility as to how we use it and how accurate it is. So I think there's the wave of the data. We're learning how to. Society is still learning how to deal with this level of data. Some organizations are very good at using it from a technology point of view. Some organizations are less good at it. Some of them are more scrupulous than others, right, as to how they use it. I think we've got to learn how to hold people accountable to using it, and how to hold people accountable for the accuracy of it, right? If we are foolish, we can't expect people not to use our data foolishly. If we use it foolishly, we've got to expect other people to use it foolishly, if that makes sense. I do think that we have to look at the accuracy of the data and the way the data is both collected and used.
So one of the things that I hear in my former life, I heard it all the time, was that the law is not as fast as the technology.
Yeah.
Um, and that is what I was thinking of when we just said, we have to learn how to be responsible about it, because the current laws can't keep up with the technological advances and how quickly things are changing.
Right.
And so that's the perfect kind of lead back to, what does that mean for 3 years from now, for 5 years from now?
You're absolutely right, and I think the law will catch up, but the law is based largely on precedent and largely on correcting bad behavior, but the bad behavior has already occurred. I think we as individuals, and I put this to everybody, need to be responsible and treat it responsibly, right? And hold people accountable to collecting things and using them accurately, right? If we do something, if it is collected accurately, then the law doesn't have a part to play. Now, we can argue whether there should be a statute of limitations on being stupid, right? You got drunk in college. I'd hold that against you for anywhere because a picture was put on the internet. I think we as society have to take on a responsible attitude that says, I did get drunk in college. It was captured in a picture, but Alexis, I don't expect, that was 20 years ago. You can't hold me accountable for that, right? Or you can hold me accountable, but you can't judge me for it. You can't not employ me because of it, right? I have changed. I have grown. And I think as individuals, as businesses, as society, we need to act responsibly, which is it. We need to only collect accurate data. We only need, if we process accurate data, then we'll come up with accurate um, predictions, accurate interpretations of that data. If the data is incorrect, we have an issue, right? So I think we have to learn to hold people accountable to the accuracy of the data that they collect. I think we as individuals need to step up on all sides in terms of the data that we publish, the data we collect, and frankly, treat people in the way that we'd like to be treated, right? Which is most of the people that are interpreting this data wouldn't want to be judged by the same way that they're dealing it as individuals. Right? So I do think we're going to see a continued massive increase in the collection of data because it's convenient, because it can add benefits to individuals, benefits to society, and the benefits usually outweigh that. I do think we are going to see a continued wave of sort of controversy about incorrect usage of data, right? Should you use healthcare data for commercial purposes and various other things? We're going to see the legislature and people continue to address those issues and the sort of ethical issues surrounding that. What I would put to people is, treat the data with respect, treat the people that you're collecting the data as with respect, which is if you're collecting evidence of action, then treat that with the respect that it deserves. People take action. People aren't always as responsible as they could be. Let's use the data, use the action appropriately, and stay respectful, right? But I think we're going to continue to see that growth in the collection of data, the proliferation of data, the ability to process and interpret the data, and I include machine learning, AI, and everything else, in that ability to interpret the data that is collected and make decisions. We have to be, as people, as individuals, we have to be responsible for the data we put out, and we have to be responsible for the interpretation of the data that we collect. In other words, let's not, if I run an AI algorithm and it makes an incorrect prediction or an incorrect interpretation about you, I am responsible for that. I can't blame it on the AI. I collected the data. I asked it its opinion. It gave me something wrong. Same as an employee. If I hire somebody, I have to take accountability for their decisions when they're acting as an agent of me. So, and the same is true within AI. If I get an interpretation from AI and I act upon it, and it is incorrect, then I am accountable. And I think we have to remember that and grow with that as we move forward.
That reminds me of one of the last episodes of Talk Tech that we recorded, where we talked about the email addresses at the point of sale site, the
Yes,
Mickey Mouse at email addresses, and the responsibility that the consumer, not the consumer, the vendor had to clean that data, to fix that data, to make sure that
yes,
they were making accurate statements. Like that's what I'm thinking about when you were talking about making sure that we're collecting accurate data.
exactly. It's collecting the accurate data and being responsible with the data that we do collect. And did we collect
Hmm.
the event and the action, the evidence of the action appropriately, right? Did we clean it up so that we can feed it into our algorithms to make accurate predictions? It's what we, you know, it's that side of it as well, right? And then taking accountable for being held accountable for those decisions. And we as consumers, you know, AI, the data told me, is not an excuse for making a poor decision, right?
Yeah.
From a data point of view, we're going to see increased amounts of data. We're going to see increased collection of data. We're going to see this wave continue to go there. We're going to see more and more uses of the data by the massive amounts of compute power that can crunch numbers and give us a prediction. And I think, you know, I think that's absolutely true. We're going to see data on everything, data that describes everything. What we've got to remember is that, you know, data is not knowledge. Data is not uh, prediction necessarily. We can predict things based off the data. Um, Data is not a substitute for experience, right? We've heard the term analysis paralysis. I've got so much data that I can't make a decision. We've still got to make decisions. We've still got to move forward as individuals, as society, as commerce, as everything else. And I think we've got to do that. We're going to see massive amounts of data. We're going to see people held accountable because more and more data is captured on people. And I think, you know, that's the direction that I think data is going. We're going to see more, for want of a better phrase, right?
Hmm.
But with that, we've got to learn to deal with it, learn to manage it, and learn to treat it responsibly.
Let me do a now somewhat infamous Alexis wrap up. Data's not going away.
No, no,
In
absolutely.
fact, we're going to be using it more and more and more. But from Data Dave's perspective and Alexis's perspective, it's important that we are responsible with the data that we collect. Is that kind of a recap of what we just talked about?
Yes, I think so. I think that's a very good recap. You put it nicely into a nutshell where you summed me up into about 3 sentences. Very nice.
That's what I do. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today on Talk Tech with Data Dave. If you have a question for Data Dave, don't forget to email us at talktech@d3clarity.com. Otherwise, thanks Dave, and I hope you have a good day.
And you, thank you very much.
If you have a question for Data Dave, reach out to us via email at talktech@d3clarity.com. We'll be happy to answer your questions in the podcast. Thanks! This podcast has been brought to you by D3 Clarity. No one has time or patience to fix all of their data and infrastructure problems. D3 Clarity helps some of the world's most recognizable brands take the right action to turn their information into strategic profit making. For more information, go to D3 Clarity, that's the letter D, the number 3, the word clarity.com.